Hello everybody. So today I'm going to be taking you through my top 10 books of 2021. I am really proud of my reading year. I went from barely reading anything at all and being like still in the biggest reading slump of my life. I ended up like reading so many new and wonderful books and like different genres, kind of different genres, but regardless, like I'm more like open to trying new things, which I'm really happy about. And I have found some of my favorite books of all time this year, and I just find that really wild. So I am gonna go through them with you. I find it really hard to like order things. I definitely know what my number one book is, but I don't really know about the others. I might know my top 5, but I'm not really sure about my top 10. So I guess maybe, actually, you know what? I'm gonna narrow down my top 5 and then the other 5 will just be in a random order. Hang on. Okay, so the first 5 books are going to be in random order, whatever I think of. I'll probably go through the ones that I don't actually own physical copies of yet. So first off, we have My Sister the Serial Killer. This is a thriller. It's not really a thriller though. It's more like a family drama, if you will. I absolutely loved this book. I listened to it on audio. The audio was really well done as well. It is about a girl whose sister ends up accidentally murdering lots of men, and she has to clean up after her sister. Things start getting a little bit worrying for the main character when her sister ends up dating the guy that she likes. And yeah, it goes from there. It's so intriguing. It's just so like fast paced and really addictive. It's got really great writing. I was on such a ride. I loved it so much. Again, it's not so much a thriller, although it is marketed as one, as it is more like a drama sort of thing. Like, it's thrilling, but probably not like a full-on thriller. It was just so good. I absolutely loved it and definitely recommend. Next up is another one I don't have the physical copy of, which is The Henna Wars. I loved this one so much. It is a YA contemporary romance. It is sapphic. It is sort of like a cutesy enemies to lovers romance, and basically at their school they have to run and make a small business. With this small business, basically whoever makes the most money wins the competition and wins a prize. And so Nishat decides to start her own henna business, and she ends up meeting a girl named Flavia who ends up also starting a henna business. And so that's where the Henna Wars comes in, and it does a really good job of exploring culture and cultural appropriation. Our main character Nishat is Muslim and a lesbian as well. She does explicitly say that she's a lesbian, and it's just like there are so many important conversations that happened in this book. I read it a while ago, so I'm trying to remember exactly how I felt, but like honestly, I loved it so much. I thought it was so well done, so well written. I loved the characters. I loved all of the conversations that happened in the book, and it was just a really beautiful, like fun contemporary. Next up is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is the first in the trilogy. Honestly, I kind of want to put the whole trilogy on here, like just as its own little slot, because I had so much fun reading this. I said in so many reading vlogs that like I'm literally one of the last people in the world to read this series. I'm so glad that I decided to pick it up finally, because it's just so fun. Honestly, there's not a lot of romance in here. Like, I kind of went in with wrong expectations, but in saying that, I wasn't too disappointed. Like, I still had so much fun just because of the world and the characters alone. Like, they were just so interesting to read about. And the main character, Jude, I'm obsessed with her. Like, she's really angry And I just loved reading every second, honestly. Like, I absolutely adored this entire trilogy. I wish there was more because I need more. I am the last person on BookTube to read this, but I'm so glad I have now, and I loved it. Next up, I have I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva. Again, what a surprise. I love this book. It's a top 10. This book just like, it felt like a warm hug. This follows a non-binary teen named Ben who ends up getting kicked out of their parents' home and has to go to a new school and moves in with their sister. I could see this being a little bit triggering in some respects for some people. Overall, there are so many wholesome, really beautiful moments in here, and I love the writing. Like, the writing was really digestible and the characters were so beautifully fleshed out. I absolutely loved Nathan as well, who is the love interest. It's like heart-wrenching but heartwarming at the same time. And then finally, for my final book of the not top 5, I have The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake. Oh my god, I had so much fun reading this. This is coming out in March 2022 as like a full-on hardback, like officially published book. This is the self-published version, and it's got like illustrations of each of the characters in there as well. This is a dark academia novel which follows 6 people who end up competing to go into the Alexandrian Society. Only 5 end up coming out of it. It follows like what they learn and them getting to know each other, and it's very, very character driven. Like, I'm gonna be honest, there's not a lot of plot, but I loved all of the characters, so I didn't really care. I loved this so much. I loved the characters. I loved like all of them except for like one of them. I'm addicted. Like, I'm so intrigued. I need to know what happens in the next book, and I need more from these characters. They're so well written, so fleshed out, and I just had a really fun time reading this. Okay, so time for my top 5. The book in the number 5 spot is not perfect. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm aware it has flaws, but I loved it so much. I devoured it in like a few days, and that was really impressive for me, especially considering how big this book is and considering that I was just getting out of a reading slump. That book is A Quart of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas. I think I read this book in like May, and this is what catapulted me out of my reading slump. Like, finally, after like a year and a half, this is what got me out of it. This is set in the world of A Quart of Thorns and Roses, which is very, very popular. I feel like everybody has at least heard of this because Sarah J Maas is huge. I have a love-hate relationship with her work. Throne of Glass series, I'm kind of up and down with. Akata, I love. I'm trash for this series, but this was up there. This is definitely more adult than the rest of her work. It is definitely more spicy. It follows Nesta, who was Feyre's sister in the original trilogy, and I was always really intrigued by Nesta in the original trilogy. Like, I know she's very unlikable, but I never hated her. I kind of liked her, to be honest. Like, obviously she wasn't my favorite because we didn't follow her story, but this follows her story. It really breaks down like grief and trauma and female friendships, and it just goes into so much detail, and it's like, it's healing. And I honestly got so emotional reading this because I could weirdly see a lot of myself in Nesta's healing in this book, and I know that sounds fucked up because like, it's fucked up, but I loved it so much. I loved seeing Nesta's growth and her healing journey. I loved the relationship between Nesta and Cassian. I'm not gonna lie to myself, like, it was like about healing and grief and everything, but it was also very, very spicy, and I loved every second. I can't deny it. I loved it so much. I did have a little bit of an issue with one of the plot points in here that annoyed me a little bit. Won't go into details because, like, you know, spoilers, but yes, definitely my number 5 spot. And this is one of the books that now holds a really special place in my heart because it was very emotional for me to read, and it got me out of my reading slump after like a year and a half. And so I do definitely have a soft spot for this. The next book is another one that I don't have a physical copy of, but that is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. This follows 2 women. One is named Amira, who is the babysitter for a woman named Alix. One night she ends up being accused of kidnapping Alix's daughter, who is white and Amira is black. It really delves into a lot of topics like white guilt and privilege and like white savoritism as well, and like woke kind of culture as well. It had a really interesting discussion on that. The imagery was just so vivid and the characters were so like fleshed out and well written. They felt really, really real, and like you're not supposed to like some of the things that they do. Honestly, even if you just want a well written immersive novel, this is it. This book just does such a wonderful job of exploring how a lot of like woke culture and allyship is self-serving, especially people who will kind of like yell about something on social media but not really care about it. Like they're just doing it for like ally points, you know? It was just such a well done, well written, nuanced novel on the topic, and I loved every second. Definitely recommend it. The next book I have was actually my final read of 2021, and that is The Charm Offensive by Alison Cochran. I was literally sobbing by the end. I will see if I can find a video of me literally crying my heart out, and I'll insert it like here. This book is just really good, and it's gonna really happen. This book is set around the reality TV show that is called Ever After, which is basically this universe's version of The Bachelor. And this explores what would happen if the Bachelor fell in love with one of the producers. It is a male-male romance, and it is heartbreaking and heartwarming, and it is so fucking cute. Oh my god. I love this book so much. I literally picked this book up on a whim, just randomly one day, and I just felt like reading a romance, and so I read it, and then I couldn't put it down, and it ruined my life. So first we have Dev, who is one of the producers on the TV show, and he has always loved the idea of this fairy tale romance, which is why he works on the show. And then the contestant on the show is Charlie. Charlie is really awkward, and he's such like a beautiful character. I adored him, and he does have OCD and generalized anxiety disorder, and Dev is also depressed. This book has such beautiful discussions of mental illness and how that can impact you and your loved ones and the people around you, and it doesn't like demonize it. I think it does a really, really good job. It just, the discussions in here about mental health were just so well done. This is very, very hard to put down. I just had so much fun reading this, and I'm so glad that I decided to just randomly pick it up one day. So in my number 2 spot, this was really hard to choose between my number 1 and number 2. I loved both of these books so much, but number 2 I've decided to give to The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I remember seeing hype for this in like, let's say 2015, and I just never picked it up, and I decided to pick it up this year when it was getting hyped up again all over the internet, and I'm so glad I did. this book destroyed me. This book has a take on Greek mythology and Achilles, and it's actually not very daunting. Like, even if you don't know any of the mythology, honestly, it's just really easy to read and it's very accessible. I read this over, honestly, the period of like a few weeks, but I'm really glad I took my time reading this because this was actually the first book that I've ever annotated. I've never annotated a book before. I've always been tempted to, but I've always been either too scared to, or I've never really had the urge to. I had the urge to with this book. So I decided to tab it, and as you can see, it's mostly like pink and blue for sadness. I am just so glad that I decided to finally pick this book up because it is well worth the hype, and I'm so glad I gave in to the hype because I loved it. For my #1 book of the year was another book that I've been meaning to pick up for a while. I remember seeing this on Books and Lala's channel a couple of years ago, and I remember really wanting to read it then, and I never picked it up, and I decided to pick it up this year, and I fucking loved every second. It is Bunny by Mona Awad. This book, oh my god, it's so fucking weird. This is about a girl named Samantha who is a part of this really selective writing program at her uni, and she ends up kind of being sucked into this group of girls who she hates and they hate her, but they end up being friends, and she ends up being like sucked into their group and becomes friends with them, and they all call each other Bunny. I don't want to explain it any more than that because it will give things away, but this was the most fucked up reading experience I have ever had in my life. I was just blown away by this entire book, and I loved it so much. It made me feel so like disoriented and uncomfortable, and like it was just really weird. I loved it. It was so well done. I don't know if this is gonna be for everybody, I'm gonna be honest with you, because it is technically a horror novel and it is, like I've been saying, very weird. If you like very strange stories that don't make a lot of sense, that don't have really concrete endings, I definitely recommend this. It's easily become one of, if not, maybe like my #1 or #2 book of all time. I'm just so glad that I discovered it this year. I'm going to reread it at some point soon. But yes, #1 goes to Bunny. It's weird. It's really great. I loved it. Okay, so that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I am so happy with how my reading went this year, honestly. I had such a good time. Please let me know whether you have read any of these books or what your top 10 books of the year were down below. I'd love to hear them, and maybe they'll even give me some new recommendations for 2022. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more content from me. I will leave all of my socials down in the description below. I hope you have a fantastic day or night, and I'll see you all next time.